Hey there, it's Mira. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, a heartbreaking story. Well, this is a science fiction that takes place in England in the late 20th century. And we got the 31-year-old narrator Kathy H., who was telling her memories about the years she spent with her two closest friends, Tommy and Ruth. They grow up in a boarding school called Hailsham, which is a seemingly idyllic place nestled in the English countryside. And Hailsham is run by what they call guardians, who take care of all the kids and teach them all the subjects. And although the students are treated very well, there are some early hints that suggest perhaps this is not an ordinary boarding school because, first of all, there's no mention at all about their parents. So they could be orphans, and they never leave the campus. Even talking about that seemed to be a taboo. And gradually, these kids come to realize that they are different. They're different from the guardians, and they're different from people outside. And it turns out that they are clones created solely for organ donation. And when they grow up, they leave Hailsham to fulfill their duty in various locations. So they're destined to lose their organs gradually and die at a very young age. Nevertheless, Hailsham seems to place great importance on creativity. The students are encouraged to use art to express themselves, and a lady is coming from time to time to select the well-painted works and display them in an outside gallery. So what's the purpose of this gallery? Well, here I want to preserve the suspense for those yet to read the book because it will be revealed towards the end of the story. And for me, I actually came across the movie adaptation before reading the book. I think it's a brilliant adaptation. I even rewatched it several times. But what's interesting is that the first time around, I didn't even realize these characters were clones. Maybe I wasn't focused enough as I watched it on a plane, or maybe the movie slowly played down that aspect because I don't recall them ever saying the actual word clone. So, I wasn't even aware I was watching a science fiction, but still, even without that key piece, the sheer powerlessness of this whole story hit me hard. But I was also touched by the way they accept their destinies and earnestly deals with love and friendship, which of course only add to the sadness of the story, although by that time, I couldn't fully grasp the source of that sadness. And later on, I watched some interviews of Kazuo Ishiguro and learned about his philosophy of composition. And all of a sudden, I understood this complex emotions that the story evokes. And according to the author himself, what he wanted to talk about was the natural lifespan of human beings, that unspoken knowledge we try to push aside, the fact that we all fade away inevitably. And he drew inspiration from Dolly the sheep, which led him to create characters designed for the singular purpose of donating organs, and their fate is to lose their organs gradually while they are still young. So you can call it a sci-fi, but it is also a compressed version of our own lives. And it dawned on me that this powerlessness I found in the destiny of Kathy and Ruth and Tommy is actually the shared destiny of all human beings. So it is a story about how we face this mortality, what becomes crucial when we realize that our lives are limited, and what truly defines a well-lived life. And I guess many of you, like me, couldn't help but wonder while reading this book why these characters didn't simply run away. At first I thought maybe this has something to do with Ishiguro's Japanese heritage, that emphasis on obedience and duty in Japanese culture, because I remember at one point Ruth said, "I was pretty much ready when I became a donor. It felt right. because after all, this is what we are supposed to be doing, isn't it? And then I thought maybe this is a dystopian story like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. But when I realized that this whole story can be seen as a metaphorical reflection of our own reality, I know there's no way that they can escape, just like no one can escape mortality. And here's how Ishiguro puts it. I was never interested in looking at that story of brave slaves who rebelled and escaped. I'm fascinated by the extent to which people don't run away. And I think if you look around us, that is the remarkable fact of how much we accept what fate has given us. And for me, maybe I'm a bit pessimistic, but I'm thinking apart from life and death, how much control do we really have over our own lives? You know, in this novel, Ruth had that simple dream of working in an office, which doesn't seem like a very ambitious dream to us. But for people like them, even a modest dream like this can be out of reach. And also, I think there's another scene when Ruth and Kathy are told that their lives must run the course that's been set for it. Well, you may well argue that our world is different, our life is different because it offers more choices and opportunities, and we can definitely fight for our dreams. But there are a lot of factors like socioeconomic factors, cultural factors, and even biological factors that can limit our choices. And I believe that is why when we often had very ambitious and even crazy dreams in our childhood, only to compromise with reality and accept our ordinariness as we grow up. And another thing that bewildered me a lot during my reading was their emotions towards Hailsham, because it does appear to be a dystopian institution where they brainwash all these kids, isolate them from the outside world, and make them believe that donating their organs is an honorable duty that they have to fulfill. But despite this, the characters obviously hold a very unique sentiment for Hailsham. And when Kathy learns about Hailsham's closure, she says that's like someone coming along with a pair of shears and snipping the balloon strings just where they entwined above the man's fist. Once that happened, there'd be no real sense in which those balloons belonged with each other anymore. So I think maybe for these people without parents, Hailsham provides a sense of belonging. It is where they come from. It is where they grow up. And although there's this triangular romance between Kathy, Tommy, and Ruth, I believe their bond transcends mere romance because they view each other as a kind of family. And in a sense, I think Hailsham is like our childhood, like a time when adults sheltered us from the world's harsh realities. Because there's this guardian called Miss Lucy, who's later fired, who believe that these kids were not being told enough about who they are and what is ahead of them. And she argues that these kids shouldn't be cheated. And although later Tommy said he thinks Miss Lucy was right. I mean, if we think of our childhood, we all, in certain period of our life, believed in fairy tales. We believed in a world of truth, goodness, and beauty. And despite growing up and realizing the complexities of the world, that childhood memory holds importance. And as Kathy puts it, I'll have Hailsham with me safely in my head, and that will be something no one can take away. And finally, I want to talk about this gallery and the emphasis Hailsham places on creation, because it said that a lot of the time, how you were regarded at Hailsham, how much you were liked and respected, had to do with how good you were at creating. At one point, Miss Lucy told Tommy that it is perfectly all right if he didn't want to be creative because that's simply not important. But she later admits her mistake, saying that art is important. So why is art important to these donors? And why is art important to us as human beings, especially when we consider that we are destined for mortality? Well, I would say art is a salvation because art is immortal, and it is a reminder that we have lived, loved, and lost, even if briefly compared with the eternity of the universe. Well, these are some of my thoughts on Never Let Me Go, and if you've got a different interpretation, please feel free to leave me a comment. And if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more book discussions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.